Hello and welcome again, everyone. I'm your host, Ali, founder of Node. Our goal with this series is to share perspectives on the changing digital landscape in our industry. With me today is Chris Jahn, President and CEO of ACC, American Chemistry Council. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the ACC. They represent many companies in our industry. Chris is responsible for advancing ACC's mission to advocate for the business of chemistry. He was named by the Washingtonian as one of DC's most influential people for representing our industry within the halls of Congress. Before we jump in, Chris, great to see you, and maybe you share a little bit more about your background and the council.
Sure. So thanks for having me, Ali. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm one of those swamp creatures. I've been in DC for over 30 years. I worked on Capitol Hill for about a decade. I was chief of staff, worked for a congressman and a senator, chief of staff for a senator. But the short version is I've been working on these issues that I'm currently focused on at ACC for those 30 years, environmental policy, transportation policy. And all I knew about on the Hill way back in the day was these associations, people come ask me for stuff, they lobby me about this, that, and whatever. And I didn't really understand exactly all that they did. And now that I'm on the other side of the fence, this is what I was born to do. I love my job. I love who I work with and love working for our great industry. And ACC, our members, our mission is to advocate for the people, policy, and products of chemistry. We believe that to remain a great country that innovates and competes globally, we must do so with a thriving chemical industry. And the reason I say that is everything that's manufactured starts with chemistry. So your clothes, your phone, the food you eat, the energy we produce to power our homes, all of that starts with chemistry. So we represent the leading companies engaged in all of those things and more as we say, the business of chemistry. So that's the largest global players on the planet to the smallest companies and everything in between.
I always say that our industry is the mother of all industries or the brand behind the brands. And I've heard you countless times talk about how this industry is the enabler for the world.
Yep.
And we may not be the most entertaining people at parties, cocktail hours, but once we get to tell our story, I think people really appreciate our commitment to this industry. And I'm certain these companies really appreciate your commitment to what you stand for. Today we're going to talk about something maybe slightly different but related. Most people may not associate ACC to tech, but there's certainly a connection. There's certainly a connection between chemistry and what's happening in the AI world right now. Our folks would love to hear about your perspective on that.
Sure. I think you're right. Most people wouldn't make that connection, but they'd be wrong. Our members drive innovation throughout the economy. And when you talk about things like artificial intelligence and the technology advances that our country makes, they couldn't do that. That wouldn't be possible without chemical manufacturing. So just think about just the fundamental hardware that you need to do all that. Data centers, semiconductor chips, computers, all the technology that we use on a daily basis. Again, that all starts with chemistry. The business of manufacturing starts with chemistry. Think about when you think about semiconductors, for example. For one computer chip, you need about 500 specific refined chemistries to make that computer chip. We really drive technological change. We're very proud of that role, even if people don't know it. And we could probably do a better job of making sure that people understand that. But you need us to unlock the transformative power of technology and AI. And we're eager to see what comes next as we dip our toe into this artificial intelligence pool.
From your perspective, what's the role for Congress and or the administration when it comes to U.S. chemical manufacturing and AI?
Yeah, so look, policy and regulatory decisions have a huge impact, particularly in developing new technologies, trying to keep the United States at the forefront of this revolution that we're currently going through. And so I think I said it before, if you want to unlock the power of AI going forward, you're going to need sensible, science-based, pro-growth policy approaches. And I'm going to take this in a direction that maybe most folks might be a little surprised in, and I'm going to talk about the Toxic Substances Control Act. It's TSCA. That's the law that governs chemical production in the United States. But I promise you, I'm going to land the plane. I'm going to bring it all together because here's the deal. TSCA regulates our industry. the most heavily regulated sector of American manufacturing. Under TSCA, the EPA has 90 days to review and decide on whether a new chemistry can enter into commerce. Here's the problem. Over 90% of the time, those chemistries aren't approved or disapproved. There's no decision made by the government within those deadlines. On average, it takes over a year to make a decision. That's not the case in Asia. That's not the case in Europe. The people we're competing against globally take 3 to 6 months to make a decision. So if we want to drive innovation, one of our members, for example, is working on a coolant to make sure those high-powered chips stay cool. That's a huge issue, right? And to increase their energy efficiency. So if we force them to go overseas to introduce that new chemistry, then guess what? The new chip is also made overseas, right? And so we've got a challenge with this whole supply chain. It starts with us and it goes through all the way to the end. And what we need is Congress and the administration to understand that, to make surgical fixes to TSCA, to make sure that we can make these technologies here in the United States.
Didn't the EPA administrator specifically mention AI recently?
He did, and Administrator Zeldin is really focused on AI, and they have a five-pillar strategy they call Powering the Great American Comeback. And one of those pillars is ensuring that the United States is the AI capital of the world. So it goes back to what we were just talking about in that last question. And basically, can we invest and develop AI here and ensure that data centers and all the related facilities can be operated in a clean manner with American-made energy? And again, you got to have the right policy environment in order to make that happen. The good thing here is we've already started to make progress. And specific again to the EPA, to call the EPA's technology decrepit would be giving it a compliment. And in fairness to all the good people that work really hard there's a computer system called the CDX that we work with, and it crashes on a regular basis. Just basic technology. Ali, you'd be appalled by this. You'd be very concerned about this as we are. And so Congress has given them nearly $20 million just this year to update that technology to get to a basic operating status so that they can do their jobs. And then the Administrator Zeldin has also said that they need to leverage AI going forward. So I was just complaining about how they take way too long to approve or disapprove of potential new chemistries. We think there's great promise in looking at AI as part of that review to significantly reduce those review times, improve consistency, alleviate the resource burdens they have, just in the same way that the private sector, your company, our organization are looking to AI to make it more efficient. The government can do that as well. We at ACC are working on some ideas that we're going to share with EPA about how they can do that. And so we're really excited about what this technology advance could be, going beyond just making sure their computers work to actually making them an efficient part of government. So we think there's a bright future here, and we want to be helpful in that regard.
I'm a little surprised by your earlier comment that we're behind Europe as well. That is surprising.
And it's disappointing. And look, because if you look at the rest of what's happening in Europe, for example, we're seeing the deindustrialization of Europe because of the regulatory environment there and because of the cost of energy. So the cost of energy is both, powering their facilities and as a feedstock is 4 to 5 times higher in Europe. And so we're seeing almost every week an announcement about some manufacturing facility closed in Europe. We've seen that movie, Ali. We know how it ends. We don't want to go down that road. And so we feel like there's an alternative path here where smart regulation, appropriate regulation. I'm not saying we shouldn't be regulated, but we need appropriate regulation so that we can continue to innovate here, drive technology and performance. And so to your point, you're making my point here is if Europe is ahead of us in terms of a regulatory environment, that means we're off track and we need to get back on.
Switching topics slightly, you are connected to lots of executives in this space, and I'm sure your conversations span beyond some of these topics that we've already touched on. How loud is the conversation around all things tech and AI from your perspective?
Yeah, you hear a lot of talk Our board members are the CEOs of their company. So we're at ACC, we're dealing with the C-suite here. And they talk about it quite a bit. I know they're making investments. They are trying to figure out what's real, what's not, and certainly trying to go down this road as fast as they can and figure out exactly what it means to them. Let me give you a couple of examples. So at ACC, our flagship program is responsible care. I know you talked to my friend Eric Beyer at ACD and the responsive distribution program. What we're all trying to do here with our organizations and what sets us apart with our organizations is that we have third-party audited programs focused on our environmental health, safety, and security performance, and it's a requirement of membership. So that means I can tell you directly, our members are 4 times safer than the US manufacturing sector, that our members are 3 times safer than non-members through responsible care. So why do I bring this up? The reason I bring it up is that they're also looking at AI and technology tools to try to get even safer. In the past 2 years, we've had the best record in terms of safety in the history of our industry. And I anticipate that we will continue to get better over time. And we're excited about that. We're proud about that. So applying technology and AI tools can help us accelerate that process even further. So to give you a couple of examples, I know that some of our members are piloting advanced AI chatbots that integrate with live process data within their static documents, things like maintenance records, operating procedures, so that decision makers can look at their processes, optimize them based on real world live data. Maintenance teams can use it to do preventative work, accessing lifespan data, records right on the spot, and make decisions in real time. And that's really important. You do preventive maintenance that forecasts when equipment's going to fail and you address it before it fails. That's a huge deal. That's a game changer for our members. Things like computer vision systems that analyze camera feeds throughout the plant, and they can detect safety hazards again in real time. And so these are really game-changing things that we're really excited about. So that's maybe not obvious on the process safety side. Other things that maybe would be a little more obvious would be things like research and development and going through the existing patents you have, the technologies you have. We had one member, a scientist at their company, who had theoretically tried to develop a new type of cleaner, more efficient catalyst, but it was just that. It was a theory. But with AI, they were actually able to model the molecular structure and simulate the process. And it's made it possible to actually design and develop that catalyst, develop that product. So if you think about our industries, you said the mother of all industries, the central science and how AI could unlock new innovation. I think we're at the tip of the iceberg. We're barely into this. And I think it really can be transformational. Sorry, I know that was a long answer to your question, but I get fired up about this. It's really cool stuff.
It's massively transformational. This industry is obviously very technical and very knowledge driven, and a lot of that knowledge sits in lab notes and technical documents and
Yes.
back office systems and that sort of thing. And if this tech can make that knowledge accessible and essentially take the cost of intelligence down to zero, I think the impact on a technical industry like ours is going to be phenomenal. And like you said, it started in like manufacturing and moving into R&D and eventually a move into the front of the house as well.
Yeah. Look, you're dealing with members all the time. Absolutely right. They don't know what they don't know. And particularly as you look at the generational shift in the workforce, there's a lot of people who are leaving the workforce and they're taking those big brains with them. And now you have the ability, I was talking to some consultants about this, to literally download everything they know as a tool for knowledge transfer. And so for this year, Ali, we started for the first time ever, we've got some awards for our members in digitization and AI. And so I'd be in trouble if I didn't mention them. Afton, Dow, and Milliken will all recognize for some of these things we're doing. And I'm sure you've got examples of people you've talked to in cool technology advances. I'd be curious as to what you have to say and what you've seen and where you think this is going.
I did not know that you had new awards in that space.
Huh?
That's
Yeah.
very cool. For us, we're spending most of our time in the customer facing areas, the commercial team, procurement, supply chain, finance. And like I said, it started in the back office and now it's coming to the front office. And I think, especially the nature of where the industry is right now, everyone's looking for productivity gains, more efficiencies. And they're starting to recognize that we could use this tech to make our people a lot smarter in front of customers, asking the right questions, doing better needs assessment, and all that sort of thing. And I would say the industry is still in pilot modes, running a lot of experiments to see what may fit and thinking about change management and just internal adoption. But I think the impact with this tech is going to be significantly more impactful than what the internet did for our industry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting.
It is certainly exciting. How are you approaching internal company
Mm.
initiatives and policies around the use of AI?
Yeah, so we're really trying to drive this forward to make our organization more efficient. And you gave the example of all these folks and internally we don't know what we don't know. Same thing for us. So we have a whole team of regulatory and technical experts. We know all this knowledge internally and all these studies that we've done over time. And we're building, for example, an internal sandbox that will catalog all of that so that everybody across the organization can leverage that, just not the two people down in our regulatory and scientific team who knows where that stuff is or who has that stuff in their head. We're just getting started on our journey on this as well, but we're really excited about what the possibilities are. And as I said, we're also doing some internal work about how government can leverage these technologies in our space to be more efficient to help our members get going too. And we've got all kinds of other things in the queue that aren't quite ready for prime time. But we're really leaning in hard to this and I think it's going to make us much more efficient and effective over time.
Love it. Chris, thank you for the insights. Folks love listening to these short, informal conversations with people like you that are helping shape our industry. Thank you for everything you do to keep our industry moving forward. I really appreciate the time.
Great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.